Welcome to this episode. I am so excited to dive in to all things retinol on this episode today. With me today is Dr. Helen Knaggs, PhD scientist and Vice President of Research and Development. Her PhDs are in biochemistry and molecular biology. And I had so much fun filming this episode with Helen. Dr. Knaggs. I work with her all the time, so it's fun to just be on a first name basis, but let's not forget that she is a PhD scientist who is really going to dive into myths and truths around retinol and the science of how we formulate products and why retinol is such a powerhouse ingredient. So without any more waiting, let's jump right into my discussion on retinol with Dr. Helen Knaggs. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Beneath the Label. I have with me today Dr. Helen Knaggs, and we are going to dive into all things retinol today. So there's a reason why this is a passionate subject for you, correct? I want to hear about way back when you were doing your PhD. Tell us a little bit about you and retinol and your passion for it.
Okay, so thank you, Kathy, and thank you, everyone, for listening in today. So yes, I started doing my PhD in the 80s. And at that time, there's sort of trends in science. And retinols were really big. They were the notable ingredient of the 80s. And the reason that I got sort of became aware of retinols was because I was studying acne. So I did my PhD in skincare and in teenage acne. And one of the best therapies at the time for teenage acne was something called 13-cis retinoic acid, which in England is called Roaccutane, and in America it's called Accutane. And there was another drug also called Retin-A, which is all trans retinoic acid, which was also being used in clinical practice at the time to treat some forms of acne. So I was studying how acne forms, but I was also participating and running some clinical trials for the makers of both all-trans retinoic acid and also Roaccutane. So that's how my road crossed with retinol, if you like.
I love that. And I mean, retinol, she's a power player, right? We're going to call retinol a she. I don't know why. I just am. Okay. There it was.
Well, so here's the interesting thing. So at the time when I was studying retinols and retinoic acids, nobody knew about the potential of retinols as an anti-aging ingredient, actually. It was as we sort of moved into the late 80s, 90s, where a very famous dermatologist called Professor Albert Kligman began to notice he was giving all trans retinoic acid to some of his female adult patients who were suffering from some facial acne. And at the same time, they noticed that the skin was improving. And his female patients said that their wrinkles were disappearing. And lo and behold, that is how we discovered the potential and the power of these types of ingredients for their anti-aging benefits.
I love that. And I've always thought one of the meanest things is, having wrinkles and acne at the same time.
Yes,
as a adult female.
I know.
That is just, it's a curse.
Yes.
And it's not very fair.
That's right.
But really, I like that retinol was discovered with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about a little bit, and I want to dive into, again, like kind of retinol. And I hear all the time people that are like, how important the percentage is. So can we talk about, like, you've talked like types of retinol or percentage of retinol, like, so are those things
in clinical
important
practice
to look at?
They are, and types is interesting too, because in clinical practice we use something called retinoic acid. So that's a drug, right? So any form of that is a drug. So retinoic acid is used on prescription. Now the retinols are, if you will, precursors of retinoic acid. So these are the compounds that are used in cosmetic skincare. And so the skin then takes those compounds and is able to convert them into the retinoic acid which then provides the benefits for anti-aging, right? So in skincare, in cosmetics, we use things like retinols, we use retinol esters, and we use retinols, and they're precursor forms that are able to provide all those great anti-aging benefits like improving fine lines and wrinkles. Now, people often get hung up on the percentage of retinol, and it's, sometimes that can be a little bit misleading, because I think it's perhaps natural to think about the percentage being equivalent to the level of potency, but actually that's not always the case for retinols, because it depends on which form of retinol you're using. Okay. And also it depends on the skin's own ability to convert it into retinoic acid, which is the thing that actually provides the benefits for the skin. So, it's sort of difficult, and it may not be truly representative to look at percentage. What I think is the most important thing for consumers to look at in terms of choosing between different forms of retinol in skincare is some of the clinical data and some of the benefits that are associated with specific products, right? So oftentimes at Nuskin, we often talk about the improvement of fine lines and wrinkles in 4 weeks, in 8 weeks, in 12 weeks. And if I was wanting to choose a skincare ingredient and want something that really showed benefits, then that's where I would be looking. Tell me what you've shown that this form of retinol in this product can provide me as a consumer. So that's what I would look at.
I like that, where it's not just it sounds like not all retinols are created equal.
They're not.
And it depends on what you're choosing and what you're putting with it.
And it even depends on the formulation, right? Which is exactly as you were saying. It depends on how it's built in the product. And one of the problems with retinols is that they're unstable. They're notoriously unstable in the products. And so if you don't formulate it right, by the time a consumer gets to use that product, it may not even have any retinol in it. So it could say, 5% on the packet, but maybe that was on day one when it was manufactured. By the time you get it, which may be several months after it was manufactured, does it have that in? Maybe, maybe not, because retinols so easily degrade.
Interesting. So you have to, as you're formulating, you would think about how do you protect
you
the
need
potency
to be smart.
of the retinol instead of just, it had this percent. I don't even know what a good percentage is, so I won't throw out a random number, but it has this percentage. But if it breaks down fast, you're right. By the time that it gets to you, and then as you use it,
it's going to break down.
Change.
As well.
That's interesting. Yes. And that's a common thing, I would guess, with a lot of strong, just skincare ingredients in general, right? Are some more stable than others, and retinol's just an unstable product?
So some are definitely more stable, and retinols are notoriously unstable. So you want to use. So you really have to be sort of smart, or make some good choices about, is the product that you're using, has it got a form of retinol that's going to be stable over time? Does it produce good clinical benefits? Is the cosmetic company showing me examples of the benefits that I might experience with this product? What do those look like?
Now I'm going to dive a little bit, because this is very interesting to me, deeper into this. How do we make sure that our product ingredients are stabilized, for shelf life? I'm sure that we do very specific formulation and testing to make sure that that the retinol we would use is stable.
We do. And we look at how we build the product in its entirety. And so, as you're aware, Nuskin has been making personal care products for 40 years, and we have a very skilled laboratory of formulation scientists who are really, really expert in their roles, right, in their jobs. And so when they're working with something like retinol, they'll know that it is inherently unstable, and they'll think about, okay, how do I build this product to make sure that it preserves it, because we want these products to have clinical benefit. We want these ingredients to be able to perform. as we intended them to when we built this product. So we can look for certain forms of retinol that actually are much more stable. So when you put them in the product, they will have more durability, if you like, and more longevity within that product. We can also add in other ingredients, things like antioxidant that help prevent oxidation in the product. So, we formulate intentionally based on the end result that we want.
I love that. Instead of starting with a goal of a percentage of something it's on the end result,
yes,
and then working and doing the science
Kathy.
Of that.
Yes, that's really good.
But I love that.
Yes.
What is our goal?
Yes,
and then formulate.
And how do we make sure that we get
and can we prove it with the clinical?
Yeah,
right.
You're absolutely right.
I love that, and I know it's not easy. I am so grateful for. Well, our PhD scientists, and really looking at this.
And formulation is like building or making a recipe. So you don't just make it and that's the one you stick with, but you decide, maybe I vary this ingredient or maybe I vary that ingredient. Or we're always looking to provide our end consumer with a great experience when they use the product. And so we're always tweaking things just a little bit to ensure that the consumer not only gets the benefit, but really enjoys using the product too.
I love that because experience is so much. The benefit is number one for me, obviously. And I think for most consumers. But well, the feel.
The aesthetics.
Okay. So while we're talking about using it, there's myths and truths about using retinols, right? Like you use it at night usually, or is that just to get in the habit? Like, is there a reason that you need to take it once a day or use it once a day, twice a day, morning or night? Like what is the truth around like how you would use a retinol?
So in our clinical studies, we've used our form of retinol just once a day.
Okay.
Right? And I think that's also because it can slot in easily into a regimen if you use it in the night. So it doesn't necessarily take the place of something you're already using.
Okay.
But you can segue it quite nicely into your pre-existing skincare regimen, right? Retinols also in their early days, and even today in some formulations, they can be quite irritating.
Okay.
And part of the reason why we sort of have these myths today are that people couldn't use them twice a day because they were too irritating for them. And so, if you find a form of retinol that is stable and that doesn't irritate, then you can use it once a day, you could use it twice a day. It's sort of, you have to work with some of these ingredients and your own skin. If you're somebody that has, is likely to get skin sensitivity, then maybe you use it once a day. And in the clinical studies that we've done, we've got really good efficacy just using it once a day. But if you wanted to use it a little bit more and it doesn't irritate your skin, then that would be okay as well.
I love that. Here's another, and I don't know if it's a truth or a myth, but that I hear is you can't use retinol and vitamin C serums together.
Yeah, and again, that comes from, I think, the sort of irritation potential of both of these ingredients. So vitamin C is an acid, so that in itself can be irritating to the skin. And retinols also may cause irritation. But again, if you play around with formulations and different forms of those ingredients, you can help to mitigate against some of the irritation. So, it depends on your skin type. It depends on the product you're using and what types of ingredients they've used. I should say that with our the retinol that we've chosen for this particular formulation, we've actually tested it on sensitive skin individuals, and none of those individuals had an issue with the specific type of retinol that we've chosen in the formulation.
And it's the formulation and the type, to your point, right?
Yes,
that makes the biggest difference
absolutely. Yes.
Efficacy and
irritation potential. Yes.
And I would guess that a lot of ingredients, you don't have to do that additional irritation, but like you said, retinol is one that...
And you do. And also, I think with any product, a good formulation lab will always be thinking about the design of that formulation in terms of what the end results are. And that's what we always do at Nuskin, is thinking about how do we build things so that we create a satisfactory consumer experience.
I love that. Okay, more truths and myths. I love this. This is educating me and all of our listeners. Does retinol exfoliate your skin? Is that how it has its impact?
It's not its main mechanism of action. Things like alpha hydroxy acids and polyhydroxy acids will be more of those typical exfoliators. So retinol doesn't really drive its benefits through that exfoliation. That would be a different type of ingredient.
If you're using like the AHAs and that, do you need to avoid? And
AHAs and PHAs.
Thank you. I'm like, and the other, do you need to avoid retinols with it, or can those be used, I think, in conjunction with each other?
I always like to think about being kind to your skin. If you've used a really, and alpha hydroxy acids and polyhydroxy acids also vary in their levels and the types of products. So with a alpha or polyhydroxy acid, you could go to a spa and they will use something like a 15% or 20% alpha hydroxy acid peel. If you've had that level of treatment, I wouldn't use a retinol, right? But if you're using products that you bought, over in the store that have low levels, regular everyday use, and your skin is fine, you can mix and match a little bit. It depends on how your skin, think about what your skin is doing. And if it's fine and you're getting the results you want, I think you've got a good regimen.
I love that. Okay. Does retinol make your skin thinner? This is another that I found online of a myth, is that retinol thins your skin.
No, not really. If you look at
makes it sensitive.
It shouldn't do. There's forms today where it won't make your skin more sensitive. In fact, if you actually look at some of the biology of someone that's using retinols, you actually might see the opposite, a little bit of epidermal thickening. So it shouldn't be making it thinner.
So that one was a myth.
I would say that was a myth. Yes.
Okay, so that one was a myth. What age should you start using retinol? And this is maybe a trick question all the way back to your PhD.
I know, that's what I'm thinking.
Where it was this and this, but let's say that you're not, is there even an age, or does it just depend on the retinol that you're buying and the formulation's purpose?
Yeah, and if you go to a dermatologist and you're a teenager who's prescribed it, then you might be using, a form of retinoic acid for acne. I think 18 plus. 18 plus? Yes, and that's what, as we've designed our formulations, that's what we built for 18 plus, I think.
When I started, I didn't really know anything about skincare until I started working at Nuskin and decided to come work for, a beauty company, a high-end skincare company. And I remember thinking the sooner I started using great products, the better my skin would be. And my theory was always use it before you need it.
Yeah.
Instead of getting to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, now I need to do it. But I just personally was always, okay, I'm going to start using this whatever product before I need it.
Yes. That's a really good
anti-aging
point of view. I think that's perfect. And, another product that would go really importantly along with that is an SPF. Always use a daily SPF. I think that can preserve your skin for the long haul as well. Yeah.
And you use SPFs primarily in the morning always?
Yes.
Because you don't want to sleep in an SPF.
No. So, you can build your regimen. So you could do your morning routine and then you put a product with sun protection in it. So, that'll take you during the day. And then you could use something like a retinol formulation in the evening. And maybe if you're going into winter, which we are now, you might want to add in a little bit of moisturizer, a richer cream in that. So you're sort of building and mixing and matching to adjust also to your skin's needs as it goes through different seasons.
With that, a question that I have heard and had myself is, does your skin need breaks from an ingredient like retinol? So can you use retinol year-round? Do you rotate it in and out with other ingredients? Is there benefits, or is that just
it's
mental?
I think that's a really fair question, and I think probably that's a gap in science right now. We don't understand for the long haul how to mix and match different ingredients. The research that we've accumulated using ingredients like retinols do indicate that you need to use it for 6 months or 12 months to actually begin to see benefits. So continual use for a long period of time.
Not taking breaks in there, but using it. Okay.
That was the original research. Again, science has evolved, and we've been able to develop forms of retinol that do produce benefits over a period of weeks. But if you refer back to those earlier publications, then using something for 6 months and 12 months really helps you in terms of seeing those visible benefits that you want to see in your skin.
I love that. Let's see. Okay, another truth or myth. You should avoid using retinol if you have dry skin.
I don't think, no.
Is that a myth?
No,
a myth?
I think that's a myth, yes. And as I said, if you've got dry skin, I would say you need to use a good moisturizer. You need something, and you're looking for ingredients like potentially hyaluronic acid, right? We've got another one, ceramides are a great ingredient for dry skin. So things that bring moisture into the skin and help to preserve the moisture within the skin. Retinols, I would say, are something that are more like specialist products or specialist ingredients that provide those key benefits in terms of reducing the appearance of aging. So if you've got dry skin, you're looking for something that moisturizes and brings that water back into the skin. You can still use a retinol because you might still want to preserve, the youthful appearance of your skin, but just make sure that you're addressing both of those different needs with the right ingredients.
I like that. And I think it all goes back to skincare regimens.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like making sure that you are treating and using what your skin needs at the right time.
And some of the research, as I've said, as we've talked about, do you use different ingredients or different products like routines? What we have shown is that if you actually use some ingredients or some products together, you can actually amplify the benefits. You can boost the benefits. And so I think that's an interesting sort of piece of learning, because not all products used together will have that same benefit.
Right.
But what we've seen in our research is that you can mix retinols with something like firming ingredients, and they actually help each other and double the amount of benefits you get.
It's not just a 1+1 in that situation.
Yeah, and you're seeing the benefits sooner as well.
Oh.
So that's really nice.
We love that. We love a little bit faster gratification.
I know.
Just human nature. We love it. Okay. Should you avoid putting retinol around your eyes? And my eyes are where I have a good amount of laugh lines, not old age lines, but laugh lines. So do you need to avoid, obviously you don't want to put it in your eye. I'm not saying that, but do you need to avoid your eyes?
You can go up, and I've generally always go up sort of around my eye, because you want to be getting the ingredient in those areas, especially as you say, you might have fine lines and wrinkles occurring. And we've tested our retinols in the eye area and not had any issues with using it.
That's good. I love that. Okay, I have two more. Truth or myth. Burning, itching, and peeling are good side effects of retinol. That's how you know it's starting to work.
Yeah. it doesn't have to be. So like
love
I've
that.
mentioned,
Okay.
right? We have forms of retinols today that don't do any of those, and they are still working, right? And there's debate around burning, stinging, itching. Sometimes consumers like to think that because it's that
You're
tingling,
sloughing it off or doing whatever,
communicates
yeah.
something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's working better. It may not be working better. In fact, usually when your skin is giving you that feedback, it might actually be telling you you're doing a little bit too much. So you kind of have to be careful with some of that, I think.
I like that. And sometimes I'm like, that it doesn't make sense.
And it doesn't
to me
have to. I think the point is, remember that it doesn't have to do those things for it to work.
Okay.
And if you find a retinol that does those things that works without giving you that, then that's probably a really good direction for your skin to
But
go
it is
in.
possible that your skin could need to adjust.
Sometimes, but with the forms of retinols that we've chosen this time, we haven't seen the
That
necessity
people need
for that.
to
No.
build up or adjust.
But everybody's a little bit different,
Yeah.
you know. So, and in our testing, we haven't seen any, but that doesn't mean that there might be a very small number of people that might just need to give their skin a little bit of time or work into regimen. But we haven't seen that with our studies or consumers that we've tested on.
And like you said, you specifically tested sensitive
Yes,
skin
we did, for sure. Yes.
to make sure that it's not just.
That's right.
I always talk about how and maybe I've just used skincare for so many years now. I'm always like, I have the toughest skin. Like,
Yes.
not a bad
Well,
tough, but I'm like,
yeah.
I don't have sensitive skin. And so I'm always like, I'm not the target market for these things. But then I do have a daughter with sensitive skin, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, like it's so much more work. It would be so much
Yes.
harder to have sensitive skin. So I love that we specifically
And
test that.
actually, some of the people that have sensitive skin have said about this form, you know, finally, here's a retinol that I can use, which is really nice feedback.
That is good feedback. That is really that, and that again was formulated for end results.
Yes.
to work, not
That's right.
not just formulated to be sensitive, but formulated to work. I love that. Now this one, I've heard this a lot, and if you're pregnant or nursing as a mother, should you avoid retinols?
Yeah. So this goes back to my PhD days, right? You know, when retinoic acid is used in dermatology, it is a very powerful ingredient, right? And you know, I would say that it would be good to avoid for pregnant women and anybody that's nursing, because you know, you're looking after an infant who is not as well developed, or a fetus that doesn't have, you know, all of the defenses and capabilities. And so with these powerful ingredients, I would say that they're for people that aren't pregnant or breastfeeding. Yeah.
Yeah, and specifically just because it's not like you have to avoid skincare, but these ingredients, like you said, are such strong ingredients.
And part of the reason is, you know, if you look at the science, the ingredients themselves are actually used as the fetus develops, as communication model ingredients to sort of to build the fetus. They're quite important sort of biochemical sort of communicators at that point in your life to help development. And so you want to sort of
avoid anything that your body's already taking care of.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, what am I missing with retinol? What questions did I not ask that you think people need to understand and know about retinol? I feel like I've learned a ton more about retinols.
I mean, I would just summarize and say that it's a really great ingredient. You know, in the late 80s and 90s, it was seen as like the fountain of youth almost.
Yeah.
It was the one thing that people would hang their hat on as actually being able to provide anti-aging benefits for skin, really powerful, visible anti-aging benefits. And what we've seen since that time is just chemistry's evolved to a place where we can provide those powerful benefits in forms that are, not irritating, and in ways that we're learning how to work with these products and these ingredients to provide the benefits faster.
I like that. Science has taken it so that probably more people can use it, not, the power of it, or keep it more stable and do these things. Helen, thank you. Thank you for being
Kathy.
on here. This
Great
is
questions.
exciting.
No, I love those questions.
I know. I was what are the myths? Like, what can we uncover
anytime.
and kind of figure out?
It's fun. Yes.
So, I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Bye.
Maybe we could have some beers here.
I know.
Cheers. That would take it in a different direction.
That would be hilarious. This is our nightly chat.
This is our VP of R&D and our VP of the Americas just downing some beers.
Just having beers, chatting all things retinol.